Leadership assessment in this country is broken. And the reason that I know that is not just anecdotal evidence, but a national study of leadership assessment on which this book is based. What we learned in the course of that was that an astonishing number of leaders have never been assessed in their present position. And of the others who were assessed, the assessments were routinely ambiguous. They were inconsistent. They were political. Incredibly, they weren't even related to what the board said was their most important objective, which was student achievement. As a result, this book created a new instrument called the Leadership Performance Matrix. And unlike most leadership assessments, which, as I said, are ambiguous and unrelated to performance, this identifies 10 dimensions of leadership that are consistent with the ISLIC, that's the Interstate Leadership Licensing Consortium, and other leadership standards. But in addition to identifying the standards, also creates a rubric, like we use in schools all the time, 4-3-2-1, exemplary, proficient, progressing, not meeting standards. The other thing that I think was necessary was a leadership instrument that really is constructive. A lot of people who have attained positions of leadership, whether it's a building principal or a district superintendent, have over the course of years achieved that because they've gotten perfect evaluations. And anything less than perfection is a dagger in the heart. This leadership performance matrix in the book says, let's give up that notion of perfection. Let's identify a standard of exemplary performance that frankly is so challenging, no one person can meet it. And so it shifts the focus from saying, how can I be perfect? How can I get a great evaluation? To, how can I acknowledge what my strengths are and build on those? And how can I similarly acknowledge areas that I need to work on and build a leadership team that will then help me accomplish that? So in sum, I think the book was necessary not only because past evaluations are not effective, but because there's a real need for a new constructive alternative. Right now is an extraordinary time in leadership. Over the next 4 years, more than 40% of educational leaders are eligible for retirement. In the vast majority of states, there is simply no incentive for people to stay. So there is going to be an extraordinary turnover in educational leaders. The same, interestingly, is true not only in the United States, but I've talked to colleagues in Canada and just yesterday in Australia who are saying the same thing is happening there. There's a big bubble in the next few years of leaders leaving education. As a result, I think this book has profound importance not just for evaluating today's leaders, but for preparing tomorrow's leaders. It's only fair, it seems to me, if we're going to use an instrument to evaluate people, that we use the same instrument to help get them ready for leadership responsibilities. So my hope is that this can inform how we do professional development, how we do leadership training, how university courses help to prepare leaders, and so on. And candidly, almost every leader will tell you that there's a big gap between what their responsibilities are on the job and what their prior preparation has been. There's enormous resistance to any evaluation system that's going to say you're not perfect. There is a desire also for more qualitative and descriptive information. I had created a matrix that attempted to be very objective, and I probably went overboard in that respect. When you look at actual field practice, there's more of a nuanced balance between the objective use of the matrix and opportunities for qualitative input and descriptive input from raters. I would say that is particularly true with regard to the senior leadership evaluation between boards of education and superintendents. I would never say that this book is the complete answer. I do think it's a significantly better alternative than the exclusive focus on test scores that we have now. The answer isn't going to be whatever the latest program that one has heard. I almost am tempted to say if you use McGuffey's Reader, but you use it with deep implementation and consistency and give it the time and professional support it deserves, you can have good reading results. So in terms of what worked, it's much more about what teachers and leaders do than it is about the selection of a particular product or program.